Welcome to our deep dive into trading psychology. We've got some great excerpts from Mark Douglas's audiobook, Trading in the Zone. It seems like we're all set to really level up our trading by exploring the mental game.
Definitely. Absolutely. It's an area so many traders overlook. They get caught up in the technical stuff, but the real key to consistent success, well, that's where it lies in the mind.
Douglas, he talks about this paradox of trading, right? He's basically saying that trading is simple in theory, but incredibly difficult to master in reality. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the paradox, it's that trading seems so straightforward on the surface, like buy low, sell high.
Yeah.
Simple enough, right? But the real challenge, the thing that trips most people up, it's the constant uncertainty, the risk that just comes with the territory.
So it's not just about knowing the what, it's about the mental toughness to actually do it, the doing, especially when you're facing that uncertainty, right?
Exactly. And, Douglas, he makes a really insightful point about this. A lot of traders, they tend to blame external factors when they struggle, like, oh, the market's bad or my system's not working. But the truth is, more often than not, it's their own mindset that's holding them back. It's internal.
We're always looking for a scapegoat instead of taking responsibility for our own mental game. Like, maybe it's easier to blame the market than to look in the mirror.
Oh, for sure. Way easier. I mean, who wants to confront their own fears and biases, right? But if you want consistent success, that's exactly what you got to do. It's not the easy path, but it's the right one.
Well, let's get into those fears then. Douglas, he lays out 4 primary fears that really plague traders. Fear of being wrong, losing money, missing out, and leaving money on the table. How do these actually show up, these fears? How do they affect the way we trade?
These fears, they're natural. Everyone has them. But, and it's a big but, they can be so destructive, They really distort the way we see market information. They can lead to self-sabotage, like hesitating to pull the trigger on a trade, second-guessing every decision, even making impulsive moves that we later regret, those gut-wrenching moves.
He gives that example of the trader who hesitates after a series of losses. He starts seeing the market as inherently riskier just because of those losses, even though nothing has fundamentally changed in the market itself, has it?
That's such a classic example. The market, it's always going to have its ups and downs. But if we let fear call the shots, we miss out on so much opportunity. We become blind to what's right in front of us.
So how do we break free from that fear-driven cycle? Douglas, he suggests the answer lies in accepting risk.
Yeah, and he's not just talking about acknowledging that risk exists. He's talking about really embracing the consequences of our actions, of our trades, without spiraling emotionally. It doesn't mean being reckless, of course, but it does mean getting to a place where you can handle losses without freaking out, without being paralyzed, accepting the possibility.
I mean, that's a pretty big mental shift for most people, wouldn't you say? It's natural to feel anxious, right, when your money's on the line.
Oh, 100%. And that's exactly why developing this ability to accept risk is so crucial. Think about it. If you're constantly terrified of losing, you're not going to trade effectively. Fear makes you hesitate. It clouds your judgment, leads to bad decisions.
So accepting risk, it really comes down to separating our emotions from the outcome of each individual trade, doesn't it?
Exactly. The market, you can't control it. But what you can control is your reaction to it. That's where the power lies. Accepting risk, it gives you objectivity, allows you to act without that constant fear nipping at your heels. It leads to better decisions.
Now, Douglas also encourages traders to try to see the market from a neutral perspective. What does he mean by that?
It's about recognizing that the market, it doesn't have an agenda. It doesn't care if we win or lose,
Yeah.
It's not out to get us. It just is. The market doesn't hand out guarantees.
So stop taking every market move personally.
Right. It's simply presenting opportunities. Every moment in the market, it's unique, filled with variables, some we know, some we don't. It's a probabilistic environment, which means anything can happen.
Right. So if we go back to that example of the trader hesitating after a string of losses, he's letting his emotions cloud his judgment. He thinks the market has become riskier, but the reality is its inherent risk probably hasn't changed that much at all.
Exactly. It's all about perception. His perception has been skewed by his recent experience, that emotional roller coaster. Learning to see the market as neutral, as operating on probabilities, that's huge. It's a big step towards overcoming fear and developing a more objective mindset.
That brings to mind something else Douglas talks about, the power of belief. He has that fascinating free money example to illustrate his point. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So he describes the scenario where people are offered free money, no strings attached, right? But get this, many refuse to believe it. They walk away from free money because it clashes with their beliefs about how the world works, how things should be.
They can't believe it's true, almost like it's too good to be true.
Exactly. Their beliefs are so ingrained that they override the evidence staring them in the face. And that's where the parallel to trading comes in, you see. Our beliefs about the market, about risk, our own abilities, all these things shape how we perceive information and make trading decisions.
So even if we have a technically sound trading strategy, if our beliefs don't align with those principles, we're probably going to sabotage ourselves.
It's like having a Ferrari but being too scared to push the gas pedal. The car is capable, but your beliefs, they hold you back.
That's a great analogy. So it's about aligning our beliefs with the principles of successful trading. It's not just about learning a system. It's about examining our beliefs and making sure they're not working against us.
100%. Beliefs are powerful things.
Absolutely. Now, Douglas also talks a lot about this concept of thinking in probabilities. He says it's essential for consistent trading success.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting. It's about accepting that we can't predict every outcome with certainty. No one can. We have to accept the random distribution of wins and losses. Any given trade, no matter how much analysis you do, it could go either way.
I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow for most people.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to seek certainty and predictability in life. It's uncomfortable not knowing.
Oh, I know, believe me. But if you want to be consistently profitable, it's a shift you have to make. The typical trader, they're obsessed with being right. They want every trade to be a winner. But that kind of thinking, it sets you up for disappointment. It creates pressure, anxiety, and ultimately bad decisions.
He uses the example of Bob, the certified market technician, who just couldn't quite grasp that concept of thinking in probabilities.
Yeah, in Bob's story, it's relatable. It illustrates that even people who are super knowledgeable about the markets can still struggle with this. It's not just about understanding it intellectually, it's about truly internalizing it and letting go of the need to be right all the time.
So how do we actually make that shift?
Yeah.
How do we start to move away from the need for certainty and embrace this probabilistic approach? It sounds like a major hurdle.
It is, no doubt. And it all begins with managing our expectations. Douglas, he's big on this. He emphasizes that having rigid expectations, especially those focused on specific outcomes for trades, it's a recipe for disaster. It's unrealistic. The market's unpredictable. Always.
It's like expecting to hit a home run every time you're up at bat, right?
Yeah.
You can practice your swing, improve your technique, but you can't control the outcome. Some days you hit it out of the park, some days you strike out.
That's a perfect analogy. And trading, it's the same way. You can increase your odds of winning, but you can't guarantee a specific outcome. What you need are flexible expectations, expectations that align with the market's unpredictable nature.
So that's where the concept of the mechanical stage of trading comes in, right? Douglas sees this as the foundation for consistent success. Can you break that down for us?
He lays out 4 key components to this mechanical stage: building self-trust, flawlessly executing your trading system, training your mind to think in probabilities, and cultivating an unshakable belief in your own consistency. These components, they all work together, create a solid framework for approaching the market.
He also talks about learning to trade an edge like a casino. What does he mean by that?
That's a good one. It's about adopting an approach where you're focused solely on identifying and executing trades based on those predefined edges, those advantages you've identified. No emotions involved. You just focus on the process, like a casino relying on its statistical edge to generate profits in the long run.
So detach from the need to win every trade and trust that by consistently exploiting our edge, the profits will follow.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to shift your mindset and align it with the reality of the market, with its probabilistic nature. It's not about luck, it's about playing the odds.
It seems like everything we've been talking about really points to the importance of mindset in trading. It's not enough to have a winning strategy, you got to have the mental tools to execute it, right? Especially under pressure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's like having the map to a treasure but lacking the courage to actually go on the adventure. You can know everything there is to know, but if you don't have the right mindset, you'll never get there.
Love that. So what do you think, listener? Are you starting to see the connections between your own mental game, your trading behavior, and ultimately the results you're getting? That casino analogy, it's really sticking with me. It seems like a good way to approach the market, more objectively, like you were saying before.
Yeah, it really highlights the process over the outcome, right? A casino, they don't get all worked up about every spin of the roulette wheel or every hand of blackjack. They're in it for the long game, trusting that edge to play out over time. They've got the stats, the numbers,
So instead of trying to predict every move, which is impossible anyway, we should focus on consistently applying our strategy, that edge, and trust that the probabilities will play out over time.
That's the gist of it, yeah. It's a big shift, though, right? It's about moving from trying to control the market, which we can't, to controlling ourselves, our actions, which we can.
This reminds me of something else Douglas mentions, this idea of the market's flow. What's that all about?
He's talking about this natural rhythm the market has. Like, it can seem erratic, totally random in the short term. But over time, you start to see patterns, tendencies.
Like learning to dance with a partner who sometimes they lead, sometimes they follow. But there's a rhythm, a style you have to adapt to.
I like that. That's a good one. And yeah, to succeed, we need to be able to adapt to that flow, anticipate the moves, but not force it.
So it sounds like those rigid expectations we were talking about earlier, they get in the way of that, don't they? That and fear.
Oh, big time. When we're all wrapped up in fear, focused on what we don't want to happen, or clinging to a specific outcome, we miss those subtle cues, those signals the market's giving us all the time. And then we make impulsive decisions, get out of sync, miss opportunities.
Like Douglas's example, the trader who's afraid to take another loss. He's so fixated on avoiding that loss that he completely misses a golden opportunity right in front of him.
Classic case of fear messing with the flow. It's like trying to dance while staring at your feet the whole time. You lose your balance, that grace, that connection with the music. The harmony's gone.
So how do we actually develop this ability to sense and respond to that flow? It sounds like it needs a lot of awareness, that mental flexibility.
For sure. And that's where this concept of making yourself available comes in. Douglas talks about it a lot. To really be in the flow, we need an open mind. No preconceived notions, no biases, no expectations clouding your judgment.
So being present, observing without judgment, without that need to control. It's almost like meditation, isn't it?
You got it. Let the market do its thing, unfold naturally, and be ready for those opportunities, even if they're not what you expected, what you predicted.
It all goes back to embracing uncertainty, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If we're trying to predict the next move, we miss all the other possibilities, all the potential out there.
Absolutely. When you're not so fixated on being right, you see the market for what it truly is, and then you can respond accordingly.
Douglas has this quote. He says, "The best traders have evolved to the point where they believe without a shred of doubt or internal conflict that anything can happen."
That's one of my favorites. It's powerful, isn't it? It really sums up the whole mindset we're talking about. It's not about being reckless. It's recognizing that the market can surprise you. It can do the unexpected. And paradoxically, that belief that anything can happen, that's what frees you to act with confidence.
Because you're not attached to a particular outcome.
Yeah.
You can make rational decisions based on what you see, not what you fear or hope for, right?
Right on. It's a paradox, yeah, but a powerful one. It's at the heart of trading success.
So how do we cultivate this belief in uncertainty? It's a pretty big shift, especially for those of us who crave certainty and control, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's big, no doubt. We're kind of wired to seek certainty. Douglas, he suggests we move away from seeing the market as something to conquer, to control, and instead think of it as a partner, a force to work with.
Shifting from that me versus the market mentality to me working with the market.
Exactly. It's not a battle to be won, it's a dance. Learn to flow with it, to adapt, to be in harmony with it, not against it.
And a big part of that, it seems to be letting go of those rigid expectations, right? Those just lead to disappointment and frustration, don't they?
They do. They really do. They just set you up for this emotional roller coaster of hope and fear, and then that just messes with your flow, with your decision making.
So how do we actually let go of those rigid expectations and develop more flexible ones that actually work with the market's unpredictability?
Well, Douglas offers a really great perspective on this. He says, stop expecting the market to give you anything. Instead, make yourself available to take what it's offering, to see the opportunity in every moment.
So being opportunistic, recognizing those favorable situations, adapting to what's in front of you, not trying to force the market to fit your idea of how it should be.
That's it, yeah. It's about opportunity, not entitlement. Be open to those possibilities, even if they're not what you initially thought they'd be.
Like that free money example we talked about. Those folks who walked away, they were so stuck in their beliefs they couldn't see the opportunity staring them in the face.
That's how limiting beliefs work. They distort your perception, keep you from seeing those potentially profitable opportunities. They can create a mental blind spot, You can't see what's right there, even when it's obvious to everyone else.
So let go of those rigid expectations, embrace the uncertainty, and suddenly more possibilities open up, right? That's the key.
Yeah, it might seem counterintuitive, but that's the core of Douglas's approach. It's about surrendering to the uncertainty, but also developing the mental and emotional tools to handle it.
This all speaks to the mental and emotional demands of trading, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes serious self-awareness, that ability to handle the constant ups and downs without losing your cool.
No doubt about it. Trading, it's a psychological game more than anything. You got to confront your fears, manage your emotions, stay focused, even when things are going crazy, even when you're facing losses. It's not easy.
And staying present, staying in that flow, that seems like a critical skill for navigating all of that, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Crucial. Dwelling on the past, worrying about the future, it just pulls you out of the moment. And the present moment, well, that's where you make the decisions. That's where the action is.
That floor trader analogy Douglas uses, walking across that bridge. It's about staying focused, present, even when the distractions are swirling around you.
Love that analogy. It just takes a split second, a lapse in concentration, and it can cost you big time. We need that mental discipline, just like that floor trader, to stay locked in, even when your emotions are pulling you in different directions.
How do we develop that kind of mental discipline, that resilience to stay focused, especially in all that market noise? Sounds tough.
It takes time, it takes practice, but it's definitely possible. And it's what separates the winners from from those who struggle. Douglas talks about cultivating this trader's mentality. It's about developing specific beliefs and attitudes that support success, that mental toughness.
And he lays out a framework for developing that mentality,
Right.
right? That mechanical stage of trading we talked about earlier.
Exactly. The mechanical stage, it's all about building that foundation, developing the skills, the beliefs, the mental strength to approach the market with a clear head, with objectivity, with a deep belief in yourself and your process.
Like building a house,
Yeah.
right? You need that solid foundation or the whole thing's going to crumble.
Perfect analogy. It's about mastering the fundamentals, the technicals, the psychology, getting that solid base so you can weather any storm the market throws at you.
And the first component of that mechanical stage is building self-trust. That's got to be crucial in such an unpredictable environment, isn't it?
Oh, it's huge. It gives you the power to act decisively, to execute those trades without hesitation, to stick to your plan even when you're feeling the pressure. Doubt and uncertainty, they're killers. Self-trust, that's the antidote.
And that self-trust, it comes from developing the skills and beliefs that back up your trading approach, right? Knowing you have a solid process, the discipline to follow through, even when things get tough.
That's it, yeah. Self-trust, it's built on experience. Consistently applying those skills, learning from the mistakes, building a track record you can rely on. That's how you build that unshakable confidence, the kind that can handle anything the market throws at you.
And the second component is flawlessly executing your trading system. Sounds simple enough, but I imagine it's harder than it sounds.
You're telling me it takes serious discipline, laser focus, attention to detail, follow the rules no matter what. Even when those emotions are screaming at you to do something else, resist the urge to chase, to overtrade, to abandon ship when things get rough.
Like a surgeon performing an operation. No room for error, no distractions, and definitely no letting those emotions cloud your judgment.
Exactly. Precision, consistency, that's what it takes. Execute with confidence, knowing you're doing everything you can to stack the odds in your favor.
And the third component, we talked about it earlier, training the mind to think in probabilities. Embracing uncertainty, letting go of that need to predict every single market moves.
Super important. It's about managing risk, making smart decisions. Every trade, it's a coin toss. But you can tilt those odds with your edge. It's a long game, not a sprint.
Like flipping a coin. You can't predict each flip, but over time, it'll even out, heads and tails.
Yep, great analogy. Focus on the big picture, the stats. Don't get lost in the emotions of each individual trade.
And the final piece, that fourth component, is cultivating an unshakable belief in your own consistency. It's like putting it all together, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's that deep-seated belief that you have what it takes, that you can do this consistently. But it's not about ego. It's about experience, skill, and a solid probabilistic approach.
So trusting the process, trusting your edge, trusting yourself to execute, even when things get hairy.
That's it. That belief, it's what lets you navigate the ups and downs, the wins and losses. It's what separates the pros from the amateurs. It's that bedrock.
This is a mechanical stage. It's all about building that solid foundation for trading success, right?
Mm.
Skills, beliefs, mental fortitude. That's the groundwork.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's the essential starting point for anyone who wants to succeed in this game. It's a challenging world, trading, but it can be incredibly rewarding if you're prepared, if you have that foundation.
This deep dive is really giving you a new perspective on how to become a more consistently successful trader. It really seems to come down to the mental game, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's a journey, Constant learning, adapting. It takes dedication, self-awareness, challenging your own assumptions about yourself and the market.
What about you, listener? What's resonating with you the most so far? Are you starting to see how your own beliefs and behavior are influencing your results in the market? Take a moment to think about it. It's really amazing, how much our beliefs shape our actions and ultimately our results in the market. This whole conversation has been a real eye-opener for me.
It is fascinating, isn't it? I think that's what I find so compelling about Douglas's work. He really gets to the heart of it. Consistent success in trading, it's not about finding that one magic system, the holy grail. It's about developing that trader's mentality, that way of thinking and being that lets you handle all the complexity, the ups and downs, and still come out on top.
Speaking of a trader's mentality, Douglas mentions this subjective stage of trading. What's that all about?
So the subjective stage, it comes after that mechanical stage we were just talking about. It's like
Right.
once you've built that solid foundation, the skills, the beliefs, the self-trust, that's when you can start integrating your own unique perspectives, those insights you've gained into your approach. You make it your own.
So you're going from technician to artist almost.
That's a great way to put it. In this subjective stage, you can really draw on your experience, your intuition, your understanding of how the market moves to make those more nuanced decisions, those sophisticated plays. It's where your personal style really comes through.
Sounds like it needs a lot of self-awareness, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To balance that intuition with the discipline you learned in the mechanical stage.
Absolutely. And Douglas, he warns about something he calls self-evaluation issues. Basically, these are unresolved beliefs, those insecurities that can creep in and sabotage your trading, even when you know what you're doing.
So you might have all the right tools, the skills, but those lingering doubts, they hold you back, maybe make you hesitate or second-guess yourself?
Exactly. This stage is about trusting your judgment, finding that sweet spot between the analysis, the logic, and your gut feeling. It's about mastering those psychological challenges that come with operating at a higher level. It's like leveling up in the game.
And Douglas also talks about an intuitive stage of trading. It sounds almost mystical, doesn't it? What does it take to reach that level?
The intuitive stage, it's like the holy grail of trading. It's where your actions just flow effortlessly from a deep understanding of the market. You can sense those subtle shifts in momentum, anticipate those opportunities before anyone else even sees them, like you're reading the market's mind.
Like a martial artist who can react instinctively to any attack. It's just there.
That's a fantastic analogy. At that level, trading becomes almost an art form. You're not bound by rigid rules anymore. You're responding to the market's movements with a fluidity and grace that can only come from years of experience, practice, and self-mastery. It's like you become one with the market.
But you can't force it, right? Intuition. It has to develop naturally through experience and dedication.
Exactly. You can't just wake up one day and decide to be an intuitive trader. It's a process, a journey. It unfolds through consistent effort, self-reflection, and a willingness to trust that inner voice. It's about the long game.
Like tending a garden. You can't force the plants to grow. You create the right conditions, the soil, the sunlight, the water, and then you trust the process.
That's beautiful. I love that. It's a perfect way to think about it.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground: the paradox of trading, the power of beliefs, managing expectations, those stages of trader development. It's clear that success in trading, it's about mastering your own mind as much as it is about understanding the market.
Absolutely. And I hope that's what listeners take away from this conversation. Trading, it's a journey of self-discovery. It's about developing the mental and emotional tools to face the market head-on with clarity, with confidence, and that unshakable resilience. It's about building that inner strength.
And as Mark Douglas reminds us, it's about embracing the uncertainty, accepting the risk, and making yourself available to those opportunities the market throws your way. Because there's always an opportunity if you know how to see it.
As you continue on your trading journey, remember that it's not just about the technicals, it's about the mental game. Cultivate those beliefs that will help you succeed. Believe in yourself, in your process, and trust me, you can achieve your goals. It's all there, within you.
It all boils down to this. The path to success in trading, it's an internal one. It's about the right mindset, the right beliefs about the market and yourself. And like Douglas says, accept that anything can happen, but at the same time, focus on what you can control. So what really stood out to you today, listener? What's one thing you can take action on starting now to put these principles to work? That's what matters, taking action.